Want to build a thriving business while making a much bigger impact in the world by becoming known as an influential voice in your industry? The choice versus just a choice with your ideal client? That's exactly what you're going to learn as I interview business experts, industry thought leaders, and entrepreneurs who are in the trenches making their mark so you can too. This is the award-winning podcast, The Ambitious Entrepreneur Show, and I'm your host, Anne-Marie Cross. And welcome to another episode of the Ambitious Entrepreneur Show. Now, my guest today says, in the world of digital marketing, the real game changer is understanding your data, not just collecting it. And joining me on today's show is Bryan Alston. Bryan, he is the founder of Brand Castle Growth Partners, and he's also the former CMO of Greater Than. Now, he has over a decade in digital marketing experience and e-commerce experience, and he specializes in using AI and data analysis for innovative growth strategies in the consumer sector. Now, his expertise lies in transforming brands and scaling businesses effectively. So we have so much to learn from Bryan today. Now, specifically on today's show, Bryan is going to share insights that we need to know about into data-driven marketing. How can we leverage that? He's going to talk about practical brand growth strategies. Grab a piece of paper and a pen. I'm sure we're going to want to know these for 2024, as well as innovative approach to business challenges and so much more. Welcome to the show, Bryan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for having me.
One of the things that we said before we went live was that you really like focusing in the consumer sector. But as we know, as entrepreneurs and business owners, when we hear about other things, other strategies and tactics and all of those things that other industries are doing, when we look at it through the lens of, how can I adapt and adopt that into my industry? We can be first off the rank in implementing a lot of these things. So I just look forward to diving in today's conversation and seeing what we can learn from you. AI, it has been growing rapidly over, the last many years. And you say leveraging AI and data analysis can really allow for growth in ways that we may never have been able to do before. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we can dive into really unpacking what we want to talk about today.
Yeah, sure. So I would say just to zoom out before I zoom in, I would say one of the biggest opportunities I've seen when looking at all the brands I've worked with over the past 15 years is really understanding your customer, which sounds so basic, but like what I've noticed is a lot of businesses tend to have an idea of who they think their customer is, but very rarely do they have an intimate understanding of their lifestyle, of the other products that they might be purchasing, what else they're seeing on their news feed, the communities that they're a part of. So not just looking at like, hey, my customer is someone who does yoga and is from 25 to 34, but really understanding sort of, the ins and outs of this person's life. And I think that with a lot of the new AI tools, just ranging from ChatGPT all the way down to some more specialized ones, it's been easier than ever to really uncover those insights. And the reason I start with that is because, again, I've worked with a lot of businesses, some of which have gone on to be like $500 million, some of which unfortunately had really good products, really good teams, and weren't able to, make it out of the gate because they didn't really understand who exactly can purchase this product and why they're going to keep purchasing the product.
Yeah.
And another common mistake I've seen, before I go into some specifics, is a lot of the conversation in AI marketing over the past year has been about platforms. How can you use AI to growth hack Facebook ads, or use AI to build these special landing pages and all of that? But it doesn't focus on the people that you're trying to attract to your business who are actually going to purchase the product. So for me, my approach to marketing has always been about people first, then platforms, and how to optimize those. And with a bunch of the tools I'm sure we can talk about, I think that it's totally possible for businesses of any size to not only uncover those insights about their customer and how their product can be match made to the right people, but more importantly, how you can leverage all of those insights about your customer and in their lifestyle to scale your business, like whether that is launching new products that cater to them, whether it's uncovering new micro niches that you might not have uncovered before, or even when you're ready to, let's say, if you have an e-commerce business, expand into stores and brick and mortar, which is what we focus on at Brand Castle. You can do that using real data versus being like, hey, I just want to be in 5,000 stores in 12 months, when it might not be the stores that your customer base actually shops at. Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a lot to unpack, but I would say
Such great
that
insights, Brian. And one of the things that you said, I just want to pick up on because, often as entrepreneurs and businesses, we're looking for the next best thing, aren't we? But often it's really focusing and doubling down on the things that we're already doing and asking, can we get even more intentional? And I think understanding who your customer is, as you said, their lifestyle, when we nail that down and we start to be able to position our brand message and ultimately then our products and services, if we're able to do that so well, our customer thinks, oh my goodness, are they reading my mind, or
yeah.
are they around? Have they been listening? Or I've been thinking about this. And I think businesses really need to be mindful that if Brian has just said you need to know your ideal customer and you've just gone, oh yeah, we've already done that, you are leaving a lot of opportunity on the table. Now is the time to really double down and do it even better with more intention, because as you say, there may be opportunities with your existing customers that you had actually no idea that there is now a need, and being able to leverage and have deeper conversations and interactions and engagement with your customer along the buyer's journey, as you said, using and leveraging a lot of these platforms that we have now available to us, just makes your brand message and your story and connection so much better with the community that you're building. So let's dive in. One of the key points you're talking about is insights into data-driven marketing. Give us a bit of an overview of what you would say data-driven marketing is, so that we can all start from the same page.
Sure. So I would say data-driven marketing is a mix of quantitative, which I think is great, but also qualitative. It's also like, for example, like what I've always liked to do is look at the customer reviews, the written customer reviews for not only the direct competitors for whatever product it is that I'm marketing, but also, again, the adjacent products that this customer might be purchasing. So say, for example, your customer is someone who is an outdoor enthusiast, who is a kayaker, and you're selling some specific, you know, like one of those like energy goos that they use, on these camping trips. That's great. I think what a lot of businesses make the mistake of doing is they'll only look at, hey, like what are the other direct competitors doing or not doing? They'll look at their ads, they'll look at their customer reviews and only focus on that. But the problem with that is you aren't only competing with those people for share of wallet and share of attention. That person is probably seeing a bunch of other brands on their news feed, or coming through word of mouth, or seeing it at REI or whatever store they shop at, who are competing for their money. And most of those products are not going to be direct competitors to you. They might be apparel products. They might be people trying to sell them, like new cars and vehicles. It might be a beverage. It might be something else. And as a business owner, it is critical to know all of those things, because again, this person only has a finite amount of money. And when you take out like their housing and like their cell phone and like their other stuff, they might only have a certain amount of disposable income to pay for your product. And what you want to do, just to go to your point, is to make sure that your product, as well as the brands that you're building and the connection you're building with this customer, is so strong that it's going to be a no-brainer for them to allocate some of that disposable income to you versus like some of these other competitors. And using tools like, ChatGPT, for example, where you can just pay someone on Fiverr to scrape a bunch of the customer reviews, both positive and negative, for all of the adjacent products in the space, upload them to ChatGPT to see, like, are there common trends? Are there common themes? Is there a type of tone of voice that these people are consistently using? Like really, again, using the qualitative data available on reviews, on like Reddit forums, on any of these places where your customer tends to be clustered to, again, build that sort of mental model of who is this customer? Like, what do they tend to like? Like, what delights them? What doesn't work? And like really use that as a starting point. And then even zooming out, I'll go into the greater than example, which happened years ago, but I think in hindsight or now, there's a lot of ways I would use AI to basically do what happened, which was back in 2018, like Greater Than at the time, they were a sports drink primarily aimed at men who do CrossFit and like really intense like weightlifting. And they had been in business, with a really great product, to be honest. High electrolytes, no added sugar, no chemicals. It checked every single box. And unfortunately, at least in the US, unless you are owned by Coca-Cola or Pepsi, it's almost impossible to sort of break into that sports drink market. And when I met them, they were like, okay, we know we have a great product. How do we sell this? And what I did, and again, this is something that I think would be easier nowadays with AI, is not look at this product like a sports drink. Because when you think about it like a sports drink, there's a very stereotypical view of how you market a sports drink. You need to show people, working out or doing yoga on the beach or have star athletes, even though a vast majority of people, at least in the United States, don't do crazy athletics. So you're immediately leaving out a massive amount of the market. And then even the ones who do a lot of athletics already have a lot of brand loyalty to other products. But every single human being on this planet needs to be hydrated.
Yes.
So my approach was, okay, don't think about this like a sports drink and sort of bias myself towards that. How do I sort of break down this product into what it fundamentally does, which is it hydrates you more efficiently without any of the chemicals or added sugars or calories that these other items have. Who are the cohorts of people that would benefit from those value props? Who are people that maybe have a higher need for electrolytes and hydration, but also have the diet restrictions where they don't want the added chemicals or sugar? And the hunch that I had at the time, based off of that analysis, was that this would be a good drink for like soccer moms here in the US, or I guess football moms in Australia, where it's like they're getting this drink for their athletic children, and then the moms and parents might drink it themselves because of the properties it has. And what ended up happening was, after a few months of marketing the product this way and seeing decent results, not amazing, some of those mothers who were drinking the product were breastfeeding mothers. And we began to organically get this cult following amongst pregnant and breastfeeding moms who said that this electrolyte drink addressed a lot of the symptoms that came from being dehydrated. It could mean headaches, cramps, fatigue, milk supply issues, etc. And we began to organically get this traction from these moms, and decided to essentially pivot the entire brand towards this, being the first hydration brand ever, at least in the US, to actively talk to and focus on postpartum dehydration. And in hindsight, it sounds extremely obvious. If you're breastfeeding, you lose a lot of water, you need to replace those electrolytes. And if you're breastfeeding, you don't want a lot of chemicals in your milk that you're going to pass on to your baby. But at the time, every sports drink in the market, really ever, had ignored this market. And they're trying to go after the exact same people. What's that?
And that's a huge market.
Correct. It's a huge market that constantly replenishes itself. It's a market that, again, has very specific needs that allows you to, again, build that connection with this customer, not only in terms of, hey, you're dehydrated, drink this product, but more importantly, builds the community aspect. We noticed that a lot of these moms started to share tips and tricks with these other moms in the comment section of our ads. They began to have this community that they were already forming themselves, using Greater Than's brand sort of as that platform. And again, a lot of the businesses I've worked with, unfortunately would ignore all of this.
Mm.
They would say, okay, well, if you can't market this as a sports drink, then there's something wrong with the marketing. Versus, to Mark and John's credit, the founders of Greater Than, they were completely open-minded to the radical
Yes.
idea of, hey, we have this niche customer base that loves our product, that has an unmet need, and where, again, we were able to match make the excellent product they invented with this new cohort. And then this was pre-AI. This was all from like 2019 to 2022.
Mm.
Again, using data, both qualitative and quantitative, to again understand intimately who this customer is, what is the daily activity in the average breastfeeding mom's life, and how
Mhm.
can we ease those things, and also again fit into the routines, fit into the lifestyle that she has.
Mhm.
And what we ended up doing is, again, we pivoted the whole brand towards breastfeeding moms, grew the business that had been around for about 8 years and was doing about 300,000 in revenue to an $8 million business, all online, within 3 years. Again, understanding the customer, listening and respecting the customer, and
Mm.
using a range of tools to not only um, find where she is online and advertise to her in that way, but eventually build the brand in the community centered around her and other breastfeeding moms. And that's really like one of the things that I think is really, really exciting
Mm.
about this new era of AI, where
Yeah.
again, it's not just about how do we use AI tools to, hack the algorithm and to produce a bunch of, AI generated written content at scale, which to me is leaving a ton of money on the table.
Yeah.
Because I think the best use of AI is to like basically just do what I just said, but do it more efficiently, where you
Mhm.
can use ChatGPT, even the free version, to help brainstorm. Hey, if I'm selling this product, what are the other potential use cases of this product?
Mm.
If like once I find this use case, just going back to um, like the energy gummies for someone who is an outdoor enthusiast, maybe there's another niche audience out there or multiple that could also use that product that aren't really extreme hikers. Because again, realistically, how many people are there who do that?
Yes.
So again,
Yeah,
it's
for sure.
it's also using ChatGPT to brainstorm who you can match make your product to, but more importantly, are there any larger addressable markets that you can match make your product to? And then again, use ChatGPT to be like, okay, on average, like what are the other products that these customers might be purchasing outside of energy gummies? Like what are some of the websites that they might
Mm.
be going to, or the other places that they might be clustered online, etc. So that way, again, you aren't just reliant on, I'm just going to put a bunch of money on Facebook ads and call it a day. Because to me, that's not marketing. That's a tactic that could work, but it's also possible that your customer base might not be on Facebook. They might
Mhm.
be on Pinterest. They might be on some Discord server. They might be on Reddit. They might be somewhere else. And again, that's why I think it's really critical to know who the customer is first.
Mhm.
And then you can start to figure out the ideal tactics to not only find those people and
Mm.
attract them to your product, but keep them in your ecosystem by, to your point earlier, understanding their needs so intimately, you're
Mhm.
able to solve many of their problems,
Yes.
not only using your product, but also your overall brand. So, yeah, that
Yeah.
would be sort of the first critical step that I think any business should take
Mm.
in order to just like set them up for success.
Yeah. What I love about what you've just shared is that it's given people some real insights in how they can leverage AI to not only, um, as you said, just create some content that you can use. It really is leveraging to understand more deeply the lifestyles and the issues and the problems of what your ideal client may be struggling with,
Yeah.
and what solutions are they looking for. And I think what you've just identified there is often the most difficult of tasks for businesses to do. How do I find that out? Because previously, and I'm sure this is what you had to do previously with Greater Than, you had to go out and ask. But
Yes.
now what AI does is, you said, it scrapes the data. It goes into the different platforms where, in this case, breastfeeding mums are going, and there's a lot of online communities and forums that they would. So it does a lot of that hard work for you. And as I said, just having that amount of data available, and being able to ask questions and have it be presented back to you in a way that's going to be really helpful.
Yeah.
Insights, the insights that you can make decisions on. That would have cost, I mean, for a business, if they were going to hire a marketing firm, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in man hours and research. But now it's something that can be done quite strategically with the AI tools.
Correct.
Yes.
100%. Now, that's not to say that you can outsource everything to AI. I think I've always viewed AI as, or at least AI as it is now, in like ChatGPT, as a lot of really, really good interns. It might be a room full of interns who can help you do a ton of research, help you brainstorm, and sort of get a good starting point. But it still needs to be edited and curated, with, again, that expert knowledge of your industry. And I think that, like, again, if you're an entrepreneur starting a business and is trying to do what's right, it all starts with having an excellent product. There's no way that Greater Than would have worked if the product itself wasn't excellent.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you can advertise things to people and get people to buy it, but they aren't going to keep buying it if it doesn't taste good or if it doesn't address whatever needs that they need. So I would say
Yeah.
that that's always something that the entrepreneur themselves can focus on, and then use AI to figure out, again, how you can matchmake the excellent product or service that they've made with some potential niche audiences that might not be super obvious. And it's also possible that there might be multiple niche audiences. Like, there are some products that have 2 or 3 different customer bases.
Yeah.
And I've always enjoyed working with those, because how you talk to each of those cohorts can be totally different. Like, there was this one brand that I worked with that basically sold, they sold like teen clothes. So the person who's using the product are the teenagers, but your customer is the mom, usually. That's who's actually purchasing the product. So it's almost like 2 different stakeholders that you need to
Yes.
address. And then one of the interesting niches that we found was that when we would advertise this product to grandmothers, who were a much cheaper audience to advertise to, but also had a much higher conversion rate,
Yeah.
we actually got really good results, because the grandma was buying the clothes for the grandchild, or
Yeah.
they were influencing their child, so the mom, to buy the clothes. So again, it ended up being like 3 totally separate funnels for the exact same product. And they all had very different, just like advertising vehicles, like ways of talking to people. We might use TikTok to expose it to like the younger college age kids, but we might use Instagram for the mom and then Facebook for the grandma. And they
Yeah.
each have totally different funnels and approaches. And ChatGPT and like some of these other marketing tools are good ways of at least, figuring out how to come up with that right game plan before you push play. And of course,
Yes.
like working with experts like Brand Castle, can help not only make that more streamlined, but actually like draft and create all of the creative that's needed to go after those people, which I think is the next exciting piece about AI. A tool like ChatGPT, again, I see it as a bunch of interns who can help you brainstorm and collect research and do a lot of data analysis. But in terms of what you actually do with that, the actions you take, meaning which social networking platforms you're going to be on, what the content is going to be, all of that, that requires a ton of, again, insights into your customer and also expert knowledge of how to push those buttons. And one of the things that I found very interesting is this this tool called Pictory. It's like victory, but with a P at the beginning. and
Mhm.
it's a text to video tool where you can basically upload a script that you can either write yourself, which I always advise, or you can use ChatGPT, and it'll basically auto create video content for you that's optimized for social media using stock footage, using it's like AI voices, and you can of course upload your own videos and your own images for your brand, and then it'll
Mhm.
sort of like mix and match your stuff with like stock videos, and you can again use text to edit the video. So again, I see at least social media virality as a numbers game. A lot of
Mm.
businesses make the mistake of being like, well, we're just going to invest all this money in this one influencer, or we're going to invest money in like these 3 perfect ads, per month, and that's going to do the trick. And unfortunately, it doesn't do the trick because,
Yeah.
especially with the TikTok era that we're in, some of the
Mm.
most random stuff goes viral.
I know. You can't,
Yeah,
couldn't strategize it. Just put something out and all of a sudden it just goes
yeah.
across everything. Yeah.
No, I mean, like
Wow.
to be honest, the ad that unlocked that greater than realization was a customer generated photo that she sent. Um, it showed greater than's carton. It showed a picture of a bottle full of her milk, and then it had a baby in the background. And we
Wow.
had her testimonial. Again, we tried like huge commercials. We tried like all sorts of stuff that again was more standard in what you think you would need to do. But when we used user generated content, again, just like how TikTok works, where everything that goes viral is user generated for the most part, that is really what took off. And what I've noticed is that with tools like Pictory, these text to video tools, you can mix and match user generated content in
Mhm.
like images and videos or things that you shoot yourself with your iPhone
Mm.
with, like some stock footage to sort of, just like fill the gaps, for a
Mhm.
15 or 30-second commercial. And then you can just get a ton of content out there. You can get 10 or 15 different variants of the
Yes.
same type of video created, not instantly, but within a few minutes, within 30 minutes. And then you can push all of those out. And that's going to, again, rig the game in your favor. It's going to
Mm.
give you the volume of content you need. So that way, the odds are out of the 100 videos you might make, 1 or 2 of those might go viral or semi viral. So I
Yeah.
think that that's another really interesting way of, again, taking the more qualitative and human and customer centric insights you have,
Mhm.
using ChatGPT to streamline those and really organize them and to get like just a better grasp, and then to use AI tools to augment those versus what we talked about at the beginning, which is people who are relying solely on AI tools to do all this work without inputting the
Mhm.
human element into it.
Yeah.
I personally haven't seen any examples of brands who have basically outsourced their entire marketing just to AI
Yeah,
and
you
have
could miss
worked.
something, you would have an understanding of something that AI may not have the grasp of yet. Let me ask you something, Bryan, because I'm pretty sure others may be thinking of this as well. Okay, you've mentioned that in the case of Greater Than with all of a sudden this customer posted this image and she was a breastfeeding mom, and you may not have realized the huge opportunity in that marketplace. A business who is thinking, well, how can we start to encourage our customers who may be using our products or have had an experience with our products to create something so that we almost create this community where customers are sharing how they're using our product so that we can then maintain a bit of an eye over what's being shared and then
Yes.
being able to leverage that again. If someone's just starting to do that, what would you share as a couple of strategies to ensure that you do it strategically and
Yeah.
in a way that just catches on, by your customers and consumers?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say that regardless of the product, I think like leading by example is always good. Like eventually there were times where I'm like, okay, I have a very specific image in mind that I need. So I would just make it myself. I would just make the user generated content with my iPhone. I would
Yeah.
just put the photo or like the product, have the props around. perhaps like on like I would like make my kitchen counter look a little messy so it looks like more normal, and then use that. And then if
Yeah.
that works, if we are getting like better like marketing results or a lower cost per acquisition, or like wherever it is that we're using that piece of content, if the metrics make sense, then what we would do is, send out an email to our customers being like, hey, like want to be featured on our Instagram, or want to be featured on our weekly roundup of our top customers. We would love to highlight you. And the thing about a lot of people is they like the idea of brands augmenting them. I would say with Greater Than specifically, and with like the other clients I've worked with, I've always tried to think about how can we use this brand's platform to be the customer's platform. So again, it's not just us trying to sell this product, and every single thing we post on Instagram, every email we send out, everything on our website solely about purchase, purchase, purchase.
Yeah.
If you're a brand that, let's say, has 10,000 followers or even 5,000, but you have a few really, really loyal customers who send you fan mail, they send you emails where they love the product, they're always like raving about you. Maybe they're subscribed to your product and they've spent more than average. Call them and just ask them, hey, would you like to be featured on our Instagram? Do you mind if we share the photo that you emailed us, online? And I would say like 95% of people would say yes. So yeah, I would just say, like, again, building that personal connection with the best customers you have, even if you're just starting out, is going to be critical, because those people are not only going to help give you the content that you need, most likely for free, but they're also going to do the most impactful marketing of all, which is still word of mouth. And if anything, I think that we're going into an era where word of mouth marketing is going to become even more premium, because as we start to get, again, people's news feeds on TikTok, on Instagram, on all these platforms get filled with more and more, frankly, useless AI generated content. There's going to be a premium placed on things that feel more human, a premium placed on things that feel more real and authentic. And if you as a brand can, again, use AI as a tool to organize and optimize, but still your main marketing strategy is about the people and about telling their stories, showing their lifestyle, etc. I think that's really going to be the key to success, which is, again, very different than what I've heard over the past year, which is just use AI and eventually it's going to do all your marketing for you with the push of a button. And I just don't see that happening now.
Yeah. And, I think also too, like we've got a lot of listeners who are very much service-based businesses. So they're really wanting to show their expertise in the consulting and coaching, mentoring, training in industries. AI, even though, you can leverage it, but if you are completely, wholly, solely relying on that, there is something missing, because there's that human factor, that experience that only you can deliver. And how often, particularly if we're individuals who are selling our services and expertise, we find it hard just to define what that is in ourselves. We often do that quite naturally, and I think that customer experience, or that experience of you and even your brand, even if you are working with consumers, there's something that is so unique and uncopyable when you're able to do that so well. And that should not be handed over wholly and solely to, AI. But as you say, you can get the best of what AI delivers, and then bring it in and see how you can then use that. And I think when you're doing that well, that is when you really can make quite a difference in your industry. And we talked about AI and data-driven marketing. But I think with all of the things that you shared, you really were able to do so in a way, giving us some practical examples of how the brand growth strategies can work. You try something out. Don't just put all of your eggs, as you say, or money in one or two ads and go, well, it doesn't work.
Yes.
It's like I'm sure you've got lots of different examples. You put out a video and you I don't really know how this lands, and all of a sudden it takes off because
Yeah.
it was right time, right, spontaneity, if you will. You've been able to capture that spontaneity in that video or whatever that creative was, and it just lands really well. And continue to monitor. I think that's so important, isn't it? As businesses, marketing research and that research and investigation never stops.
Yeah.
When we have that curiosity factor about us and always looking, what can we leverage? What's going on? Can we play on something or tap into something that is really taking off? Can we leverage that as part of our brand and story and what we're doing? And I think now businesses, no matter what size you're at or no matter what budget you've at, the playing field has become almost similar. And what I mean by that is the tools that these big companies have access to, we as smaller business, micro businesses, size businesses have access to that too.
Yes.
Where the real money hits the road is how are you leveraging it?
Yes.
How are you leveraging it? And I think smaller businesses, we've got the advantage of being able to be a bit more agile to that. We don't have big team meetings and different levels of management
Yeah.
that we have to go through. So we really can kind of shift with the marketplace. So, and we can use businesses such as yours, experts who are expert at recognizing trends before we probably do. And so share a little bit about brandcastle.co and how people can get in contact with you, Bryan.
100%. Before I do that, I just wanted to 100% agree with what you just said. And I think
Yeah.
that just speaking about B2B businesses, because again, I think that everything I said applies to them as well, perhaps even more so, because a B2B business isn't necessarily a physical product that you're eating or drinking or cooking on or whatever it is. It's like, it is people. And I think that a perfect example of this behavior and how people respond to people more than, oh, here's some AI generated thing is on Google, and I don't know if this is the case in Australia, but here in the US, a lot of people will type in best sushi restaurant near me, Reddit, because they don't want to read some SEO optimized listicle that was most likely written by AI. They want to read what actual human beings are saying about, hey, what's the best sushi restaurant in my district? And that behavior is going to keep happening for the reasons I mentioned earlier. And the other piece about this is, again, say that you've outsourced your whole business to AI, or you've outsourced your marketing to all these AI tools and everything. I think that the problem with that is it's almost like you are building a bunch of cannonballs that are all just like rolling around on the ship deck. Well, what you need is a cannon. You need to be able to focus your budget, focus your energy, focus the stories you're telling, focus all of the various pieces of your business towards the right people. And I would say that that's like the primary, or like one of the primary things that we do with Brand Castle. Our focus is really on setting consumer brands up for success, both online, so using e-commerce and Amazon to, again, answer the questions we talked about earlier. Who are your customers? What's the community you can build? What's the connection you have with them? And using that data to turn them into omni-channel businesses. So really helping to facilitate their introduction into stores. And my co-founder, I'm like Yemeni, he used to be the chief sales officer for Quest Nutrition, was there from when they were doing 20 million all the way to when they were doing 500 million. And what he noticed, not only with Quest, who again started as an online only business and used online as the platform to answer these questions and to, again, build that canon, was when he went into the negotiations with Target or with any brick and mortar retailer, he was saying, okay, well, we don't want to pay the slotting fees. We want this shelf space. Hey, if you have a hot brand that uses data to prove that, and has a community and has sort of the awareness, it gives you so much more negotiating power when you are trying to get on shelf at store, which is critical, because what most people don't realize, and again, I'm just thinking back to all the brands I've worked with who had the product, had the passion, but didn't make it all the way, is they didn't really use online or see it as value add. They were like, well, we're just going to launch online because it's easy, but we really just want to be in stores, and we're just going to abandon e-commerce as soon as possible. And they weren't able to have a hot enough brand to get all of those fees and all the fine print waived. That really eats into your margins when you're on shelf. There's also times where they would go into the wrong stores, places where, again, their core customer doesn't even shop. So they are reliant on random foot traffic walking up and down the aisle who won't recognize their brand because they aren't, again, advertising or building any sort of awareness online to pick their product out of many. And then eventually they run out of money, they have their door count cut, etc. So at Brand Castle, what we aim to do is to eliminate these problems that brands have, to, again, use e-commerce and use online and use Amazon to, again, answer the questions, set you up for success, get that to be profitable and ideally cash generating, brokering the entire process for getting you into store and on shelf, and then again, using marketing and using demand generation to make sure you're actually selling the units on shelf.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things I'm sure we could spend hours talking about, but I would say that that's really what we focus on.
Just scratched the surface. So the best place to go, obviously, is the website that is there, brandcastle.co. And I mean, just the things that you shared today, I think for any business, don't think less than of any piece of technology or platform, because now we're seeing that, you talk about a term, and I'm sure people have heard of it, the omni channels. Your business needs to be online. You cannot not. If you're not online, you really don't exist. We used to say that years ago, decades ago, and I think it's even more, more important now, because you do need to build that brand awareness, and then people are going to be asking, "Oh, what's that brand? We want this brand." And if the store that you should have your product on that shelf does not yet have your product, and they have continual flow of clients coming in the door saying, "Do you stock such and such?" That is going to be a huge foot in the door for you if they approach you and say, "Look, we need to talk because we've got multiple clients coming in, customers coming in for that." But as you said, we've only scratched the surface, and I do know that you've probably got other interviews lined up as well. So we may leave it here, but I just want to thank you, Bryan, for coming on, sharing some of the wonderful examples, and I think examples and success cases and all of that, even cases that didn't quite work, because I think we can all learn even from the things that didn't turn out so well. What can we do differently? What can we leverage now that wasn't available to us several years ago? And it's one of those things, isn't it, as businesses, we've got to continue to look at all of these tools. How can we use them the best way possible? But I think now, and this is the key thing, don't hand everything over to AI. We need to keep that personal factor in place. If a lot of your industry is turning to AI, that's fantastic. Pivot a little bit and bring the human factor, continue that human factor, because that's when your business is really going to make a huge impact, if you're really there, really creating that wonderful experience with the community online, who may eventually then become your customers. So thanks for coming on the show and sharing your expertise with us today, Bryan.
Yeah, thank you so much, Anne-Marie, for the platform. And I hope it added value to your listeners.
Oh, absolutely. Bye for now.
Bye.
Hey, it's Anne-Marie. Before I go, are you a coach or a consultant who feels like the world's best kept secret? Your experience is vast, yet secretly you're frustrated because despite all of your hard work, you're just not getting the visibility, the recognition, or new clients you'd hope for, and you don't know why? I've created a free resource that'll help you build visibility, generate leads, and enroll dream clients with ease, because you're seen as a trusted authority, even in a crowded marketplace, and you've positioned yourself as the choice versus just a choice for your dream client. To get started, go to annemariecross.com/gift. That's annemariecross.com/gift.